That's Wayne Kellestine, and here we are in his house, and the people you're about to see, 5 of them are the accused in the Bandidos trial.
You're not here by accident, you know that.
Okay, so I'm here because...
Well, I would say vicinity to the crime scene has something to do with it. Okay?
I don't think I'm in any trouble.
Well, then prove it to me. I'm not here...
I don't have to prove anything. You do.
Okay, well, you're actually right about that.
Hey guys, in today's video we'll be taking a look at Wayne Kellestine, one of the most wild and dangerous gangsters in Canada. As well as diving into the details of the gruesome Shedden Massacre, what caused it, and how he danced on that dark night of April 7, 2006. Wayne Kellestine, the Wiener, was born in May 1949 in Ontario, Canada. For years, he was a notorious outlaw biker, gangster, and drug dealer. To some, he is among the most dangerous people you'll never want to meet. A policeman once told a journalist, "He's a guy who, if you were to meet him, the hair on your neck would stand on end. He is one scary individual." There isn't much we could find about his early childhood life. He is as mysterious as he is dangerous. Nonetheless, we know he has a long and intriguing criminal record dating as early as 1967, when he was only 18 years old. Young Kellestine seemed to like rubbing shoulders with the authorities. The police had multiple charges on him, including 3 counts of assault, 3 more for illegal possession of firearms, and more than a dozen for breaking and entering. Additionally, he was also infamous for dodging police charges. At one point in 1982, some witnesses even testified that Kellestine was responsible for the murder of a big-time businessman, Giovanni Di Filippo. According to police reports, Di Filippo was assassinated by a person disguised as a pizza delivery man. Some police officers were sure that it was Kellestine who pulled the trigger. However, they never obtained enough evidence to throw him in prison. The authorities were even more suspicious of Kellestine after he bought a $50,000 farm just a few months after the incident, as they wondered where he got the money from. His new farm near Lona Station would later become the venue for the bone-chilling Shedden Massacre. In 1984, Wayne Kellestine was drawn in by the biker's lifestyle and decided to join the Outlaws Biker Club. He quickly flew up the ranks. A few years later, they allowed him to start a satellite club in St. Thomas, with himself as the president. Thus, Kellestine founded the Annihilators Motorcycle Club. Its logo was a mailed fist clenching a lightning bolt. According to peers, Kellestine loved his club. He even had the logo painted outside his barn. Despite his love for the Annihilators, Kellestine's unpredictable temperament would repeatedly get his club into trouble. On one occasion in 1989, he got drunk and assaulted a police officer. Kellestine then attempted to evade arrest by stealing a limousine and engaging the police department on a wild car chase down the streets of St. Thomas. Unfortunately for him, he was apprehended after crashing into the Annihilators clubhouse. Kellestine was considered a wild man, even to his fellow bikers. In June 1991, a fellow wounded Outlaws biker came to the police and filed a charge against him for attempted murder. According to police reports, Kellestine got angry at the man and ended up firing 4 bullets into his body. However, the charges were later dropped after the biker refused to testify against the club president. Not long after the charges were dropped, the police found the body of David "Sparky" O'Neill with 3 bullets embedded into his skull. O'Neill was a close associate of Kellestine and a dangerous man wanted for the murder of Police Constable Scott Rossiter. Although there wasn't evidence to support the claims, some detectives believed Kellestine offered to kill his associate in exchange for the charges of attempted murder being dropped. Before his death, O'Neill was often seen visiting Kellestine's farm seeking refuge. People knew Kellestine's unpredictable temperament. However, it was in 1992 that the police got to know more about the Annihilators president. In March the same year, there was a major police crackdown against the Outlaws biker gang. The police raided Kellestine's farm and arrested him while he was drunk and high in his living room. Additionally, the police found him surrounded by guns, cocaine, and Nazi memorabilia. To no one's surprise, Kellestine was a racist and passionate homophobe. Every year he would travel to London to protest against the local Gay Pride Day, waving the Confederate battle flag. He even had a giant Nazi logo mowed on his fields. To further show his support for the white supremacists, he ran a security company with the KKK initials boldly inscribed on its business cards. While in custody, a prison psychologist tried to figure out how Kellestine's mind worked. In conclusion, he discovered that Kellestine wasn't criminally insane. Instead, his aggressive criminal behavior was a matter of choice amplified by his paranoid narcissistic nature. During Kellestine's era, the Hells Angels were also tirelessly working to rule the outlaw biker scene in Canada. It was a long and violent process that saw the 1990s bathed in the blood of many rival bikers. Amid all that chaos, a London millionaire named Salvatore Vecchio was found dead in a swamp next to Kellestine's farm. Once again, Kellestine was the prime suspect of another high-profile murder. Even the police officers believed it was him. Salvatore Vecchio was big in Ontario and was among the few people in the city to own a Ferrari. He was a real estate guru, loan shark, and co-owner of an adult website that he ran with the help of the mafia and other outlaw biker organizations. Kellestine and his biker gang were against the Hells Angels. Nonetheless, they lacked the numbers needed to stand against the Mammoth Club. They had to join the Loners after being kicked out of the Outlaws Biker Club because of Kellestine's rowdy and unpredictable nature. The Loners Club is a Canadian outlaw biker club founded in 1979 by Frank Lenti and Gennaro Rosso. Although it's not among the big biker names in Canada, the club has an international presence in the United States and Europe, and are reported to still be active in the streets of Ontario. That being said, even members of the Loners Club didn't particularly like Kellestine. They only accepted the collaboration to boost their numbers. One of the Loners even commented, "Can you believe the type of people we're attracting?" It was also around the same time that a man called Giovanni Boxer Musadier joined the Annihilators as Kellestine's protege. Kellestine then changed the club's name to the Chatham Loners. Meanwhile, Kellestine's reputation caught the Hells Angels' attention, and they offered him to join the organization. They thought he might help progress their campaign in southwestern Ontario. Kellestine refused, beat, and expelled some of his bikers who wanted to join the Hells Angels. On October 22, 1999, the Hells Angels retaliated against Kellestine. On that fateful day, he was the target of a drive-by shooting by former loner Dane McLeish and Quebec Hells Angels Philip Billy. Kellestine was relaxing in his truck when suddenly they fired a shotgun at his truck several times. Nonetheless, the assassination attempt failed, and Kellestine survived. The police decided to investigate the assassination attempt and take the opportunity to search Kellestine's farm. They found what they were looking for. He possessed a stash of 40 guns and a rocket launcher. Therefore, they charged him with violating Canada's gun control laws. Nonetheless, they released him on bail. It was now December 29, 2000, and many outlaw biker gangs like the Satan's Choice, the Lobos, some Loners, and many others traveled to Montreal to merge with the Hells Angels. That move quickly established the Hells Angels as the largest and most dominant club in Ontario. As a result, the Greater Toronto Area had the largest concentration of Hells Angels chapters in the entire world. Once again, Kellestine and his Chatham brothers found themselves alone against the mighty Hells Angels. For their safety, they decided to join the Bandidos on the 22nd of May 2001. The Bandidos Motorcycle Club is reported to be the second largest and most dominant outlaw motorcycle club in the world, behind the Hells Angels, according to authorities. They are among the chosen few bikers who can wear the 1%er patch that shows proof of their dominance in a region. Nonetheless, some law enforcement authorities like the FBI classify the club as a criminal syndicate. Unfortunately for Kellestine, the 1999 arms possession incident came back to bite him. He was found guilty of violating Canada's gun control laws, and they sentenced him to 2 years in prison. Eventually, he was released in 2002 only to discover that his former protege, Musadier, was now the president of the Canadian Bandidos Biker Club. Some journalists remarked, the puppet had cut his strings. Bad blood started brewing between them. However, the majority of the club's members preferred Musadier to Kellestine. He was honest, reasonable, fearless, and loyal. For them, that was enough. Even though Musadier's club was peaceful, it wasn't profitable to the Bandidos headquarters in Houston, USA. Simply put, they weren't making enough money. At the time, methamphetamine was the most lucrative drug in Ontario's drug market, and Kellestine was already in the trade to make money to clear his debt and keep his farm from foreclosure. Surprisingly, Musadier summoned Kellestine and ordered him to stop selling meth. On top of that, he forbade all the Canadian Bandidos Club members from selling meth. Why? Because he thought it was morally wrong, even though he himself was a cocaine addict. The no meth order greatly infuriated Kellestine and another ambitious Bandidos gangster named Sandom. They both commented that the entire Canadian Bandidos Club was more concerned with being a social club than a money-making organization. One gang expert even commented, "On a scale of 1 to 10, the Canadian Bandidos Club was rated somewhere between 1 and 0. Apparently, the American leadership of the entire Bandidos organization shared the same sentiments. In December 2005, they disowned the Canadian Bandidos Club, that later changed its name to the No Surrender Crew. However, there was a problem. Even after being expelled, members of the No Surrender Crew still wore their Bandidos patches. The American leadership had to do something. In March 2006, the American Bandidos leaders summoned Kellestine and Sandom to the Peace Arch Park on the American-Canadian border. If you didn't know, bikers with criminal records aren't allowed to cross the border into or out of either country. The Peace Arch Park acts as a safe zone, where bikers can meet and talk without crossing the border. On that fateful day, Sandom and Kellestine met Price, the then National Sergeant-at-Arms of Bandidos USA. He then explained to Kellestine that they would make him the new president of the Canadian Bandidos Club if he succeeded in pulling the patches of the No Surrender Crew. However, if he failed, they would forever expel him and Sandom. A few days after the meeting, Sandom gathered a few of his trusted bikers and visited Kellestine's farm. They knew Kellestine had more than enough weapons to arm the group against the No Surrender Crew. Kellestine welcomed Sandom and his men and armed them with weapons from his cache. Additionally, he also prepared his wet work kit. Kellestine specifically used the kit to clean up after murders. It consisted of hydrochloric acid and rubber gloves. Sandom and his crew spent a few days with Kellestine at his farm as they plotted how they would pull the patches off Musadier and his men. Finally, in April 2006, Sandom and Kellestine decided to act on their plan. It all started with Kellestine accusing Flans of being a police informant. Flans was a Jewish biker who was part of Musadier's No Surrender Crew. Kellestine, being anti-Semitic, specifically chose Flans out of hatred. Musadier was aware of Kellestine's erratic behavior and didn't take the allegation seriously. Nonetheless, Kellestine insisted that the entire group should meet at his farm to discuss the issue. Musadier reluctantly agreed and set a date. At this point, Kellestine had murder on his mind. Sure, he could pull the patches without killing anyone. However, Sandom had fed him lies that the No Surrender Crew had betrayed him and were planning to reconcile with the Outlaws Biker Club without him. Furthermore, he knew the No Surrender Crew weren't going to easily surrender their patches. The night before the massacre, Kellestine vacated his wife, daughter, and all women that came with Sandom and his men. He declared that no women were to attend the church meeting. Church meetings refer to mandatory meetings for outlaw bikers. The following day, on the night of the massacre, Musadier and his No Surrender Crew arrived at Kellestine's farm at around 10:30 p.m. The No Surrender Crew consisted of Musadier, Flans, and 6 other men named Cryorakis, Raposo, Jerome, Sinopoli, Sulemo, and Little Mikey. The church meeting was to be held in the farm's barn. Its walls had adult pictures of women sitting on Harley-Davidson bikes and the usual Nazi memorabilia. Nonetheless, Kellestine had cleared some space in the middle of the barn for his guests. Although they couldn't put their fingers on it, Musadier's men knew something was wrong. They had a hint that it wasn't going to be a peaceful meeting. The atmosphere was too tense. Luis Raposo of the No Surrender Crew was the first to act on his instincts when he saw Sandom standing on the rafters with a rifle. Sensing danger, Raposo quickly aimed and unloaded a shot onto Sandom with his sawed-off shotgun. Luckily for Sandom, he was wearing a bulletproof vest and survived the attack. Stealthily, Sandom regained his composure and shot back at Raposo, killing him. Raposo was known for his middle finger gesture. It's believed he let his guard down to give the finger to Sandom. The police found Raposo's body with his middle finger raised while the rest of his fingers clenched to his fist. By now, it was clear to everyone that war had begun. Sinopoli and Kryarakis, two other No Surrender members, tried to escape amid the confusion. Unfortunately for them, Kellestine shot and wounded them with his handgun. Sandom and his men quickly took control of the situation and held hostage the remaining members of the No Surrender crew. Kellestine then proceeded to shout, "Everybody get on the floor. I'm here to pull your patches." This is being done by the order of the states. Over the next few hours, Kellestine drank as he decided the fate of the No Surrender crew. He even allowed Mussadir to call his girlfriend, provided he doesn't say anything stupid. Mussadir could have asked for help, instead he only asked his girlfriend how their baby was doing before hanging up. He chose to abide by the biker's code that was against asking for help. As Kellestine drank and ranted to his hostages, he would occasionally pistol whip Flans several times telling him, "I'm saving you for last, you Jew." Meanwhile, Sinopoli was crying endlessly, stating that he had a bad feeling about the church meeting. Kryarakis was also crying as he prayed in Greek. He also pleaded to Kellestine that he had a family back home. Suddenly, Sulamo, a fellow imprisoned member of the No Surrender crew, snapped back at them, "We're bikers. We're not fucking Boy Scouts, so stop whining." In the course of the night, Kellestine asked Mussadir to join him in exchange for his life. However, Mussadir turned him down with a laugh, defended the false claims against Flans, and asked Kellestine to call an ambulance for Sinopoli and Kryarakis, who slowly bled to death. Eventually, Kellestine's patience ran out and decided to execute all members of the No Surrender crew. One by one, they were marched outside and shot in their respective vehicles. The court referred to it as an execution assembly line. Kellestine was now heavily drunk and hungry for blood. As the men were led to their deaths, they could see him dancing as he sang the national anthem of Germany. Mussadir knew it was the end for him and pleaded to go first. He stated, Do me first. I want to go out like a man." Kellestine quickly took his former protege, matched him to his truck, and shot him in the head and chest at point-blank range. Several days later, the police overheard one of Sandom's men remarking, "This guy, he went out like a man." He laughed. Went out like a man. Next was Kryarakis, who they had to drag out as he prayed in Greek and cried uncontrollably. Most of the bikers were surprised as they expected their fellow outlaw biker to be tougher. Third in line was George Jessom, a 52-year-old biker dying of cancer. He only joined the Bandidos club because he wanted to make friends. Jessom went out without saying a word. Up next was Sinopoli. Everybody saw him crying and screaming hysterically as Sandom's men dragged him out. He repeatedly said that he had a bad feeling about the meeting. He wished he listened to his gut. Kellestine pulled the trigger on Sinopoli, but he survived because the gun jammed. Kellestine was given another gun and finished off Sinopoli, who was bleeding and crying in pain. The remaining two members of the No Surrender crew, Flans and Little Mickey, were forced to clean the blood of their fallen comrades. As they struggled to clean up, Kellestine would frequently taunt them that he was a hard worker and that the fallen members of the No Surrender crew should have thanked him for killing them. Kellestine killed Little Mickey, and Flans was left alone. When his time came, Kellestine was too drunk to finish him off. Instead, he assigned the task to Sandom. At this point, even Sandom was mentally broken by the events. He was too nervous to kill Flans and failed to do so despite shooting him at point-blank range. Instead, he blamed the gun for jamming. Mushy, a more experienced killer, took the gun and finished Flans. Afterwards, Kellestine ordered his men to load each of the bodies in their respective cars and dump them in Kitchener, one of the Hells Angels strongholds. He hoped that the police might blame it on them. That was the plan. However, on their way to Kitchener, one of the victims' vehicles was almost out of gas. They decided to abandon the plan and dump the bodies and vehicles at a nearby farm. They then set the cars and bodies on fire. One gang expert had this to say about the Shedden Massacre. I don't think Kellestine would have been that dangerous that night if it wasn't for Sandom. They needed Sandom's ambition and Kellestine's craziness. Kellestine knew the police were going to come after him. After all, his men dumped the bodies not far from his farm. Additionally, the victims were last seen alive entering his property. To prepare himself, he called 2 of his friends to help him destroy the remaining evidence. They even came up with an alibi. They were to confirm that they were present on the night of the incident, and all they ever did was drink some beer. As expected, the police launched a major forensic investigation at Kellestine's farm in May 2006. They found some of the victims' charred apartment keys in Kellestine's fireplace. Additionally, they also found a half-burned business card that belonged to Flan's computer company. A few days later, one of the police knocked over a microwave revealing Kellestine's secret weapon cache. They found 18 guns, some of which were the murder weapons used that night. Some police experts also noticed that the barn's floor was soaked in hydrochloric acid. With all the evidence pointing to Kellestine, Sandom, and their men, the police arrested and took them to trial. The hearing for all 6 suspects began on January 9, 2007, in a court in London, Ontario. Kellestine was still as wild as ever. On the first day, he was seen giving the middle finger to the reporters. He even swore at the courtroom artist. After a series of hearings, the jury finally delivered its verdict. In October 2009, the jury issued 44 guilty verdicts for first-degree murder and several others for manslaughter. To this day, those are the highest number of convictions to have ever been produced from a single criminal proceeding in Canada. Kellestine is still alive but in prison serving a life sentence for first-degree murder with no chance of parole. His farm still stands as one of the creepiest places near Lona Station. One journalist once described, "From a few hundred meters away, the crime scene looks like any other Ontario rural property. But up close, it feels decidedly more sinister." As always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Also, comment down below on what you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.